So today we're going to be working with Jeff's bear. This is a black bear. I'd say probably pretty average size. It was tanned by a taxidermist, which means this is like as hard as it's just plain stiff. Now this was just caught last season, so it's not old. But what I did was I removed the head from just behind the shoulder. And we're not going to use that. I think he wants to do something else with this. So we're going to set that aside. And what I did was, this is the balance of the skin. So I need to get two pairs of mitts and a hat out of this. And I tentatively marked where I'm going to put my mitts. And then what I did was I went through and I cut out all of these bald spots. So before I cut the bald spots out, I wet the entire hide with Ezz Leather from Samuel Bauer. And you mix that up, usually 1 cup to a gallon. I kept it a lot stronger. I think I used half a cup to maybe a quart. And this is really nice and soft. All right. So next thing I did was, when I was marking my mitts out, I marked where the bad spots were, that basically bald, like tick bites, I don't know, who knows, a shotgun. But I marked all the spots that I had to cut out, and now, while this is still damp, I'm going to go and I'm going to sew these up by fur machine. Now, there's a total of, I think, 38 or 39. So I'm using a bonded nylon thread and a number 12 needle on a Bonis A machine, and we'll see how we go. I think this is sewing together pretty good. One thing I did prior to sewing the seam is I took a paper towel and I just tried to remove as much excess moisture from the area that I'm sewing. And I'm going to try and hold this and sew it at the same time. So the bonded nylon thread is nice weight. And this is really sewing together pretty well. So I'm going to continue repairing this. And yeah, we'll see how it happens. So I have all my repair spots sewed up. And I gave them a good brush, and I didn't find any extra spots that I needed to, you know, pay attention to and cut out. So now what I'm going to do is, here's my leather side. It looks kind of gnarly, but that's expected. I am going to re-wet this and then let it sit for another 20 to 30 minutes. The first time I wet it, I think I let it sit for an hour and a half. And I soaked it really well. So I'm going to soak it one more time, let it sit for about another 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm going to nail it out. So I let it sit another 30 minutes after I wet it the second time, and then I nailed it out. Seriously, I got quite a bit of width. I didn't gain much in length at all, but this is hard. The leather is very stiff. It's not going to give you a lot of stretch. So I was pretty pleased with the way the repairs turned out. If I had a small bubble, I just kind of like knew where my piece was going to be. Like, here's the crown, so I tried to smooth that out, and hopefully it'll dry nice. And then I'm going to relay my pattern pieces on it and see how it works. And anywhere where there's like say for instance, this is the thumb of the front of the mitt, I will use tipping and dye that leather. So before I sew my mitts out. I probably will cut it first and then do the tipping on the leather. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, I feel like I had to eat should have eaten my Wheaties this morning. It really was a chore to get this pulled. I'm not that strong. I thought I was stronger than I was, but this was pretty tough. It feels soft. You know, I hope it dries a little softer than what it originally was. So fingers crossed on that. So I was kind of surprised at how fast and quick this dried. And it's only been about 4 hours. So anyway, I am going to take it off the board, remove all my staples, and then I'm going to flip it fur side, see how it looks, and then I'm going to lay my pattern out, or patterns for my hat and my mitts, and see what I like setup-wise. So, yeah, it smoothed out really nice. The kind of like raised little bubbles that were in here from before. I don't know if you could see that, but it smoothed out really well. So I'm happy with the way that it's turned out. It's nice and flat, and it doesn't feel, you know, real stiff. So that's kind of good too. Hopefully if it dries even more, it won't stiffen up. So we'll see. So I let this sit overnight before I decided to remark my pattern on it, and it dried. You know, I think it's pretty soft. I don't think it's going to get much softer. I think if I would have tumbled it for maybe another half an hour, if I would have had maybe more tennis balls in the dryer. So what I did was I put it in my clothes dryer on air fluff with a bunch of dryer balls and tumbled it. And, you know, that really helps soften the leather. I don't have a regular fur drum, but if I had that, I would have ran it probably about an hour. Now, so I've got my back of my hat. That's the flap. That's the front of my hat. I've got a mitt top here, a mitt top there. And then on this side, I'm going to have my other mitt top, the other half of my flap from my hat, and then my other mitt down here. So this matches that, and the one up here will match that mitt. So I'm going to cut these out, and then I'm going to tip dye any areas that I feel need to be done and let that dry. So I think overall it looks pretty good. You know, the hair length on bear is pretty long. It's not dense. It's not thick under here. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it doesn't have a lot of under hair. So it's where the center back is, you know, seems to be the densest, and it's longer and gets a little wispier, or whatever you want to say, on the sides. So we're trying to use the center back of the skin for the hat, and then the tops of the mitts will be what they will be. But with the beaver for the under mitt and cuff area, I think it's going to be a lot more flexible, and it matches really nice. So I think that's the best thing to use on this. So my next step is to do tipping. What is tipping? Tipping is a dye that is put on the leather side of your fur pelt. It is aniline powder that I get at Samuel Bauer. There's a couple other places that carry it, but it's a powdered dye, and this is mixed with denatured alcohol, not rubbing alcohol, denatured alcohol. So I take a small container and fill it about half full with denatured alcohol, and maybe a half a teaspoon of the dye. It makes a lot. This little container of dye will probably last me like, I don't know, 10 years. So after it's mixed, you just take a paintbrush and see how I'm applying this? I'm just letting it soak in. Now, after I get this done, I've done the one piece right there. What I'm going to do is take and put the two pieces together and kind of like push them down and get that leather really saturated well. So I'm going to lay this piece on this piece, and then I'm going to push them together. This leather is kind of tough. It works better with, beaver works really good if you want to do beaver. But what it's going to do is it's going to dye the undertone of the leather in the hat so it looks fuller and denser. And you can come through on the fur side. If I wanted to do the fur side, you just do the same thing. You just get real close to the leather, and then, you put your paintbrush on there, and it'll, eventually absorb down in, and it'll color that seam. You can see how it's starting to color it now. It'll color that seam. So this is taking a little bit, this isn't taking it as well as I thought it was going to. It will the more I work on it. I can just put another application down. But yeah, this will dry really quick. Takes maybe about 10-15 minutes for it to dry. Make sure you wear gloves. And that's what tipping is. So I usually do that on all the edges going around before I join my pieces together. So I just want to show this to you again. So there you can see where I didn't color the leather. And then when you get closer back here to the edge, you can see how deep color that is underneath there. That's because it's already permeated the leather and it's toned the color of the dye that I've put on. So this is just a little thicker leather, and so it just took a little longer for it to permeate. Now, they sell this dye in all different colors: black, gray, pastel. So you can literally, and brown, of course. So you can literally tone whatever you want to get the color that you want. So if you mix it heavy, it's going to be a really dark black. If you mix it lighter, it's going to be a lighter black. And same with the browns, if you mix it really dark or light. But I really think it helps when you've got something that needs to be, it's like putting on makeup on your face. You don't see it, and what happens is it just looks a lot better. And when they wear this, if they get a worn edge, like on the tip of a mitt, like right on the fingertip or by the thumb area, the leather underneath is colored, so it won't look bare. It won't look like it's worn. And so you can come back from the fur side, and I could use that brush to do it from the fur side, or do it from the leather, or do both. Why my pieces that I did the tipping on dry, I'm going to cut out the back side of my mitt, my cuffs. And I think, so here's the bear, and here's the black dyed beaver. I think they complement each other nice, and that this will look, very nice on the inside of the back of the mitt for the cuff connecting to the thumb. And beaver is a lot more flexible. It'll be easier, to move, and won't wear as hard as this bear would be on the thumb. So I'm going to cut my back cuffs out and my palms out of the leather. I think I've already got a set cut in black. And then by the time I get this done, those will be dry and I can start joining them up. The thing is that there's a lot of prep going into what you do. Sewing it is the easy part. So we'll get this set up, and then I've got a pair of liners already made, so they should join up really quick. For assembly, what I like to do is get everything set up. So here is my right and left pair. I've got them marked set 1, and then the cuffs, I've got the same thing done. Set 1, and I'm going to put that together, and then I've got the other set all complete. Now what I do before I sew, after I've got these cut, sometimes I put cold tape on them, I'm not going to do that on these, is I brush the hair going the same direction that it should, and then I come to the back side and I take and I brush out all of the edges, because any trapped fur that might have gotten cut off or whatever is not going to get sewn into my seam when I sew. So I really think that's important. Take your brush your seam edges, and then also give your goods a final brush, because if you missed anything and you need to repair it just by chance, you missed something, now is the time to do it and find it. So I like to put everything together in sets, and the next thing I'm going to do is get my palms, the leather palms cut, and put my leather palms with each set. I've got my hat all set together because that's just one unit, and then we're going to join the palms to the cuff, and then the cuff to the mitt, and we'll be ready to put the liners in after that. So I'm joining these mitts together, and I've got the beaver on the back side because that's the cuff side, and then this is the front side of the bear. And I didn't put any cold tape on it because this is real firm. It's not going to stretch. This beaver was a really nice leather beaver, nice and heavy. So, doesn't need cold tape. And this is sewing really nice. I have bonded nylon thread, which is a 33 weight. And I got it at the Thread Exchange, bonded nylon 33. And it sews just really nice. So, these are joining up well. The only thing I'm kind of curious is when I go to do the hat, it's going to be double the thickness of the bear, how that's going to sew, because that's a little stiffer, two really stiff thicknesses. But we'll see. These mitts are going together really nice. One of the last steps in my mitts is putting twill tape on the top edge of the cuff. And I use an 1.5 inch wide twill tape, and then I put that around the perimeter. I've got my liners made up. I use a Polartec 200 rated fleece, and I've got my liners made up. So my liner is just going to, I sew my liner by fur machine. It gives a real nice finish on the seam, not bulky. And then after I got my twill tape on, I'm going to take my liner, put my liner down inside my mitt, and then I'll close up the top, and I'll show you after I get to that point. So I have my twill tape, cotton twill tape, attached to my mitt, and then I've put my liner inside. I've trimmed my liner just to like 1/4 inch below my twill tape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to my regular sewing machine, and I'm going to zigzag stitch all the way around the edge, about oh, I don't know, maybe about 3/8 of an inch from that seam edge right here, catching the twill tape and the fleece. After I've gone around once, then I'm going to take this and fold it over. So it's going to be all 3 thicknesses, twill tape, and that folded over thick edge of the fleece. Well, probably 4 thicknesses. And I'm going to zigzag stitch that again real close to the edge. This gives this a really nice cushion edge here. And it finishes the mitt off perfect. Where I joined the 2 pieces of twill tape together, I just tucked it, and you can see how I sewed that together. I just folded it, did a seam by fur machine, and then, you know, kind of finger press that back on each side. It's easy to go over with my sewing machine. And this just gives a really nice finish to my mitts. So my mitt had, on this one, I put the sheared beaver on the inside cuff. Not the sheared beaver, I'm sorry. This is the long hair, regular black dyed beaver. And then I used a black doe skin leather palm. On the side of the mitt, I put in a little hook, plastic hook, and it's dropped down on a piece of grosgrain ribbon so that 2 mitts can hook together. And I think it turns out really nice. That Polartec, you can get the 200 grade or the 300 grade. It's very warm. It services these mitts beautiful. On the hat that I made, what I used on the inside was black dyed sheared beaver. And I did that for the inside flaps. And I also did a front trim on the main front of the hat. And I did that, it's probably about 3/4 of an inch deep. And I ran that to the inside the same depth. So this gives that front of the hat a really nice feel when you have it against your face, that sheared beaver on the inside. And then this hair from the front, you know, it's usually really spiky on just about any fur. And what it does is it kind of gives it a more natural look when it's on. Now, the flaps on this, I just used shoelace, and I put a little ball on the end of it, and I just shortened these up by doing, I don't know, a little finger, oh, I don't know what it's called. Anyway, you just kind of like lace the shoelace up short if you want it, and if you don't want it short, you can pull this and it'll release the shoelace all the way. The flaps can tie up on the back, and it's kind of fun. I think the balls on this little tie are cute because, you know, even the guys like them. It's a little flare. And this hat is all ready to go. And then I happen to use a quilted nylon for the inside of the hat lining. I think it's a smooth finish. It feels good against your head. It's got enough cushion there. Some people like to use fleece. I personally like to use a quilted nylon. And yeah, it's a handsome hat on. I had my son try it on last night, and he was like, "Oh, I want one too, Mom." So it's fun. It's a fun hat. And this is the Alaskan Trapper Denali style hat. It's from the Alaska Institute, and I'll put that information. I think I got a little hair right here. I'll put that information in the comments description so you know where to get that pattern.